If you're looking at buying houses or you're buying houses right now, I'm sure you know a few things that can cost you a lot of money, cause you a lot of stress, and really ultimately take you off of your goal of investing to make a profit or investing till you just lost, you know? And realistically, I mean, I get it. We can hold on to the property long enough to where we can make money. But if we do our numbers, if we're looking at certain items, then we can kind of guess and know where we need to be more particular, so that way we can actually make real profit. The basic units almost seem like common sense, but realistically, heating your house, cooling your house is one of the largest expenses that you're gonna have, right, for home ownership. Not for just your home, but for your rental properties, for your flip properties, for your Airbnbs, for your group homes. And these things can cost $5, $6, $7, even $20,000 each unit. And as you can see, I got 4 on my house, so it's really expensive. What's up? It's your boy, Swan Belcher. This is me taking action. If you're here for the first time, we talk real estate, how to make as much money as you want during a 30-day period of time while you cherry pick the very best houses for yourself. Wholesaling, flipping houses, and keeping them. We make money through real estate, okay? And I love to show you how to do the same. So all you gotta do is press the like button so that way it shows up in your feed more, and then press the subscribe button so when we drop a video, you guys are the first ones to see it, okay? Now, when it comes to flipping houses or just comes to looking at property so you can know if it's a good deal or not, the heating system and cooling system for the house is super duper duper important. Never mind if you don't have a heating system, which a lot of houses still don't. The city can come in, condemn your house, and say, hey, it's not livable or suitable, especially in the wintertime. Like last night, temperatures dropped like in the low 50s here. So inside of our house, if we didn't have any heat on, realistically, it could be in the high 50s inside of the house. And that's pretty freaking cold. So imagine when the temperatures drop down to 30 and it's 40 degrees in the house. The city don't like that. They call that unlivable conditions. Most mortgages don't like that either. They won't even lend on houses if you don't have the proper system or the system is not working properly. So in this video, I wanted to go over a few different systems that you should know about, maybe some pros and cons, and then talk about some money as well. So that way you can be on the lookout below, okay? Now, it's 2023. So the most common systems that we're gonna run into is central heating and air, a heat pump. Heat pumps do the job of heating and cooling. There's an outdoor unit, which you see right here, and then there's also an indoor unit. The outdoor unit is for like cooling the house, okay? There's like a fan that goes one way to heat, a fan that goes the opposite way to cool, and then the furnace inside is really like the main functioning part that actually gets the air through your ducts and into your room. Now that furnace that's inside has a bunch of coals, and it kind of like radiates, and then that pushes wind through your ducts. Now, everybody kind of, you know, in the real estate investing world, I guess, this is kind of like the holy grail. This is kind of where most people like stop, you know, or this is what most people try to get to, you know, because realistically in my rentals, believe it or not, when I buy them, you know, off market, direct to seller, you know, and the house needs a bunch of work, a lot of my houses don't even have, you know, HVACs. They don't have like any heat at all. Like, it's just, the tenants are using space heaters, blowing out the wall sockets and putting window units in the windows. So this is typically what we upgrade to, you know. So the first thing I look at is whenever I got a deal is I say, hey, you know, is the heating unit good? Is there a heating unit at all? If there is not, then how much is it gonna cost me to put one in? Okay, because in a lot of these older houses, these things are like, you know, they're like new to the scene. I mean, realistically, they're 20 to 30 years on the scene. And so you have to upgrade the electrical in order to run these machines properly. So if you got an old fuse set in your house, you know, that you just bought, get a reduction, right? If you got a 100 amp box, you're gonna have to add some more amps to that box, get a reduction. If you got a 200 amp box, oh then, hey, great, you're in good shape. But if you don't have a 200 amp box, you're probably gonna have to add that to your rehab costs, so that way you can make sure you have central heating and air, so that way you can get the best tenants or get the best buyer, so they can get the best loans and you can get paid the most amount of money. Now, the next way you can heat your house up, right, whether you're buying it, once again, to rehab, you're gonna live there, or fix and flip, or group home or Airbnb, it's gonna be gas, okay? Now, there's a couple things to say here, okay? Sometimes you have gas tanks that are under the ground like this one. This can be extremely expensive to maintenance, because realistically, if there's a leak, somebody's digging that bad boy up, okay? If it ever rusts out, somebody's got to dig that bad boy out. And when it does rust, of course, you're contaminating the ground. So they might not make it buildable, or you might have to go do some kind of permits or have some soil test done. So that could get really expensive. A lot of the times with the older houses, you'll see like a tank that's on top of the ground. Now that's okay. And, you know, you can have Barrico or another gas company, you know, bring gas out, like propane out, to fill that up. I think we have one at one of our older houses, and it costs the tenant, because we don't fill it up, it costs the tenant $800 a year to fill that gas tank up, so that way they can have heat. Now for us, it's really a downside, because $800 divided by 12 could be coming into my bank account. You see what I'm saying? Because if I upgraded the unit so that way it's only on electric, then that's more value that I'm adding to the house, so I could get paid more rent, you know? So, you know, really look out for that. Because essentially, when you have gas units like this, you're just missing out on rent as a landlord, okay? The tenants that come into your property, they want the least amount of bills as possible, okay? So you might have water, they might have electric, amen. Okay, now I will say, if it's gas and it's already connected to like the city or to like a power company where people don't have to come out and fill it up for you, that right there is definitely added value for your tenants. Now I will say, the one like pro to having gas, you know, in your house is that it really does heat it up quick, you know. So some people might see that as a benefit, but like I said, for landlords, that's not really a good thing as far as getting the maximum amount of rent, and also the liability of them, you know, blowing up your house, you know. But for your personal house, you might necessarily like it, okay? And now the third way, you know, you might see, but I've honestly never really seen until this house, to heat up your house, is one of these boilers. Okay, so like I said before, when we're talking about the heat pumps, you want central heating and air. So you want one machine heating up the whole house, not necessarily baseboard heating that heats up one room. We'll talk about that in just a second. You know, you want central heating and air. That's how you're gonna be able to get the most value from your house, the most amount of rent from your particular house. And so this is really just like a stove on, you know, on steroids, like I was just telling Isaiah. You know, I don't know if you remember, like your grandma might have had like an iron stove sitting in the living room on this metal thing, and she would put wood in it. This is that, but it sits on the outside and it heats up the whole house. So essentially you're putting wood into it, and water runs through the whole thing. So it's heating up the water, pushing the water through the house, and then putting that in your ducts. And when you turn on your fan from the HVAC, that fan sends all of the heat, just almost like a central heating and air unit, sends all of that heat through your ducts to heat up the house. Only you don't pay for anything. Only you don't pay for anything, which is the cool part. So like, it acts like a heat pump on the heat side. But it doesn't, of course, doesn't have, you know, AC. It acts like a heat pump, but it's free. Okay, so this is the coolest part. I never even knew these things existed until this particular house. But the heat comes from the wood that you put in it. And if you just happen to have wood, you know, but you can also find people on Facebook Marketplace, because I chopped up some wood. I found out that was hard, so I went and picked me up some. and and I loaded this thing up. But it literally heats up to about 200 degrees, pumps water into the house, and heats your house. And I'll come to you guys probably in like 2 months to I guess kind of like do a review of like how much we pay in Duke Energy, you know, for a 6,000 square foot house. But this is another way you can heat up your house. Now, I will say one of the downsides to having this, other than it, I mean, like I said, it's great because it's free. It heats our house for free. So, I mean, if you consider that heating the house, you know, is like the most expensive part about your electric bill, our 2,000 square foot house in the wintertime, our Duke Energy bill would be about $300. Okay, and Duke would send out this report and said that, you know, a certain percentage, this is how much you're using to heat your house. And it was always, you know, 50 to 60% of our bill. So realistically, you know, this cuts down your expenses in half when it comes to your electricity bill. But the worst, I will say the downfall to this is these are not common at all. So like the guy that I had come service it for me yesterday, he came from West Virginia, Princeton, West Virginia. He came 4 hours away to help me service this because there's literally nobody in a 4-hour radius that service these things other than this guy. So shout out to Mr. Matthew Glenn that brought this guy Zach down from Princeton, West Virginia. But yeah, another way to heat your house. And then the last way, the properties that you look for in houses that you're gonna see like heating systems are gonna be like radiators and baseboard heating. Okay, now radiators and baseboards, the benefit to them is they're like the cheapest source of heat that you can get. And that's really why you're gonna see so many of these, because like landlords and investors, you know, most of them are trying to do things the cheapest they can, and so that way they can kind of make some money. So when you guys are out marketing direct to seller and you guys look at properties, you're gonna see a lot of radiators and a lot of baseboard heating. Now, typically they're electric, you know, and which is kind of the downside because it takes so much electric to get these things to heat up your house. Your tenants' bills end up being extremely high. And the tenants who agree to rent your place and they see that it has baseboard heating, they know their electric is going to be high. So they demand a lower rent price. Okay. So whenever you see those, me personally, I do my best to always, you know, put a heat pump in so that way we can have central heating and air. Because at the end of the day, when you increase the value that your house provides to a tenant, to a buyer, or whoever is going to be staying in it, you're going to increase the amount of value you can receive monthly via cash flow. Okay, so now let me guys know what kind of heating systems you have seen or if I missed any in your house. But it is imperative that you look at the heating systems inside of the houses that you're buying, so that way you can determine if it's worth to upgrade your systems, so that way you can get more in rent or more in appraised value, you know, or just actually look at them to make sure they're in good shape, so that way you can save money and actually make money on your flips and your rentals. Okay, so if you guys enjoyed this video, if you learned something, go ahead and smash the subscribe button and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.